Okay, so here we are, live show. We were running late, but somehow we actually have the most topical show because about an hour ago, Gervonta Davis announced and Jake Paul. It's been announced they're fighting.
Are they fighting, Lukey? Let's be very
It's an
clear.
exhibition. It's an exhibition bout, right? I have some pretty strong opinions on this. Dakota, do you want to start or do you want me to
get up in there, bro? Because I don't really know. I mean, I think it's all bullshit, but I would like to hear what you.
I mean, I don't think it's bullshit per se. I think that like Jake will come to fight him, but I'm very disappointed in Gervonta, and I think that you have to start to wonder: does Gervonta really want to box anymore, like at a high level? Because I mean, I guess I have to question his competitive drive just to a certain degree because Lamont Roach, in my eyes, beat him, right? And now he's taking a novelty fight for money over kind of a fight to get his redemption. And for the last year, he's been saying, like, I want to retire. This has just been a career for me. I don't know if we see him in any more like matchups that kind of move the needle as boxing fans. I think this might be where he's going.
Yeah, and I think it's entirely possible that Lamont Roach fight was the last time he really felt like being legitimately uncomfortable in a boxing ring. The fact that this is an exhibition, I have no idea what weight they're going to do. I don't understand like the logistics of how this actually gets done when one guy has weighed almost 100 pounds more than the other on fight night, depending on the opponent. It's just very bizarre to me, but it's very indicative of what boxing is right now, where it's very obvious that it's deserved and that people would like to see Tank have a rematch with Lamont Roach, who fought his ass off and totally deserves it. And like you said, we're getting this in place of that, probably because it makes more money, but it doesn't move the sport forward at all. It's not the kind of matchup that I'm interested in from either of them, really. I mean, everybody has been saying since he fought Chavez, Jake's like a real fighter now, and it's a real fighter doesn't get to do shit like this just cause. And I also feel like, Tank gets a lot of grace in the sense that, if another major star took this fight, how people would react to that. I don't think there would be any hesitation in saying, oh, they're not like a serious fighter anymore, particularly if the weight doesn't make any sense. But I feel like he'll probably get a pass, honestly.
To me, I'm not as mad, Jake Paul, and shout out to all the new subs.
I'm saying Tank will get a pass.
No, yeah. I mean, for Jake, for Tank, this is a really risky fight. And I know people are going to laugh, but he's fighting a guy who's basically 100 pounds bigger than him.
It's not a fight.
Well, it's going to be like, if you're Jake Paul, you have to treat this as a fight, right? Because imagine if he drops Tank. Like, that adds to his luster, right? Like, even if he's bigger, like, you have to go hard in this fight because you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. Whereas Davis, it feels like, is just taking this fight for money, and there's a lot that could go wrong. He's coming off of basically his worst performance as a pro at the highest level of the sport. To me, this is a very risky fight for Tank because this could be the year from hell. And the other thing, and just for those people on the thing, I read on Yahoo Sports, it's an exhibition. It is an exhibition. It's happening November 14th in Atlanta, Georgia. That being said, like, I think that like Tank is coming off a fight where with Lamont Roach, I think a lot of people, myself included, I thought Lamont won. And he hasn't been fighting all that often. And we haven't gotten that 50-50 fighting the best guy of his era fight yet.
He's not that guy, though. He's been telling us his lack of interest. He's been saying it out loud, and now he's showing us. And
he's showing us how interested he is in boxing because to me, Shakur Stevenson has become the best lightweight without having to fight Gervonta Davis. And that's wild to me.
And I think that there's always been this waiting for him to take those fights. And I think what the outcome is going to be and what his legacy is going to be is that those weren't the type of fights that he was interested in. And I hope that he gets the same type of criticism that, you know, Canelo gets for fighting guys that are 10 years younger than him and undefeated. You know what I'm saying? Because it's crazy.
It's just, you know, and I see Jesus M in the boxing. He says, let's talk real boxing. In about 2 more minutes, Jesus M, we're going to get over to Moses Itauma, and we're going to talk that, and we're going to talk the fight cards. But this is some big breaking news, and Gervonta Davis is someone that I don't have him on my pound for pound list because kind of like stuff like this. My pound for pound list, you have to kind of, you know, take the top name guys and consistently. And I think that Gervonta, like you said, has been pretty candid that this was a career for him. He didn't have that same passion for boxing. And now that he's making good money, making those type of fights, I don't think are as appealing to him.
And he just fought what was closer to a 50-50 fight and was very uncomfortable doing it.
He didn't like it, you know, and I wouldn't be shocked if at the end of this year or next year, he's close to calling it a day, because it seems like this is very close to being the end with his enthusiasm for the sport. Because the other thing is, when he's not boxing, he's not around boxing.
He wants to stay comfortable so bad, he won't even fight Manny Pacquiao, who's 47 years old. You know what I mean?
That has to be the next fight. If he looks all right in this, then maybe next year they think about Pacquiao. But I mean, to me, just to see this fight being made kind of tells you where his interest in the sport is, because there's that rematch. You know, you're coming off a draw with a guy, and to kind of just not take that fight is just really strange, because that tells me there's a level of competitiveness that just isn't simply there.
But look, at this point, it's not strange coming from him. It's strange if Terrence Crawford does it. It's strange if Canelo does it. It's strange if Bam Rodriguez does it. It's not that strange if Tank does it anymore.
And this is why, for the past few years, when people have put Gervonta on the pound for pound list, I haven't been on that, because, you know, it's like he has the talent of a pound for pound fighter, but it's like we need that Shakur fight. We need something of that merit. This was the year that he needed to fight Shakur. This was the perfect year for both of them. That fight's never happening.
Probably not.
That fight with Haney's never happening.
I mean, I don't think any meaningful fight at lightweight is going to happen after this, because he's not going to cut himself down to 135. He'll probably come in 160 or whatever, and he's not ever coming back down in weight.
I mean, we can't even speculate, because the information hasn't been put out. We don't know. We just know that the fight is happening. It's an exhibition bout. And credit to Jake Paul, because he's making another fight that's interesting. It's like, it's the Jake Paul 101. You go to a bar and you go, what if one of the most devastating lower weight fighters fights me, but I'm much bigger than him? How would that fight look? And it's like, there's a part of you that goes, I kind of want to see what it looks like. And that's the genius of Jake Paul, is he keeps coming up with these matchups that, you know, there's a level of you that goes, what would that look like?
Yeah, I guess.
Now let's go to Moses Itauma. What did you think of that?
Listen, bro, I'm really trying to make sure I don't get ahead of myself with this kid, but 20 years old, you know, fighting a guy very much past his prime, but a legitimate top 15 guy, and just walking through him the way he did. You know, listen, bro, in recent years, this is the type of step-up fight that somebody like Jared Anderson or somebody like Richard Torres has kind of struggled with a little bit in modern heavyweight prospects, and they were a little older, right? But this kid, it's like, you think, all right, maybe there's at least some resistance, and he's just like, he's like running through brick walls like it's nothing. And to be a kid that young, to be this dominant, and to continue moving up in class and consistently making it look that easy, bro. Like, I mean, I don't have any historical context like that there's been somebody like this.
Well, the comparison is Tyson. Tyson was the guy that did this.
Right. Mike Tyson would be, and maybe Fernando Vargas, right? But it's like, also those guys lose a little earlier because they're so big, so young. But this kid's so patient. He's so poised. He takes his time. I'm supremely impressed, bro. I think
I'm
he's
liking what
special.
I'm seeing. The thing that is his secret sauce to me, the thing that he's doing that I love is he's patient and he's got good hand speed. So he's very quick and he lets his hands go. And it just feels like these heavyweights are not used to that level
He
of
doesn't
hand
rush,
speed.
bro. He doesn't have that like young guy energy where it's like, all right, slow down a little bit. You're missing a bunch and you're doing this and that. He doesn't have any of that. He reminds me of Jesus Ramos. He really does because Jesus had that poise already so young. And I think that's what amazes me about Moses.
That being said, the kind of the big marquee wins, Dempsey McKean, solid guy, but I mean, contender. Dillian Whyte, solid guy, a little bit older. There is a part of me that wants to see him in with kind of like a Filip Hrgovic who fought on this card. Guys that are maybe a little bit closer to their prime, a little maybe durable. Because the thing with Tyson is he had the Mitch Greens and he had Tony Thompson. Did Tony Thompson take him rounds? Or I forget who it was. Bone Crusher. What was it? Bone Crusher Smith. That's the next thing, right? Is Itauma needs those rounds to get in with the champions because he needs that experience. I like in the chat, they said Itauma versus Frank Sanchez. That's basically like a really good step because Frank's he had that disappointing loss, but I think he's a really, really good fighter. And if he did that to Frank, that would be something. But I do think that he needs to fight someone who's going to carry him, or not carry him, but take him into the mid rounds because we haven't seen does he stay at that level for the full fight?
Yeah, and I think that could come from somebody who's maybe like an older contender, but they're fresher than Dillian Whyte. Like maybe it's Zhilei Zhang, maybe it's Derek Chisora, maybe it's somebody like that. Maybe it's somebody, like you said, a little closer to their prime that's in a more similar position to him. I mean, I would love to see him in Richard Torres. I would love to see him in Jared Anderson. I think that those would be the kinds of fights I'd be interested in. To be honest, too, there's also for me, Jermaine Franklin, that's a good matchup. I think that's a great matchup.
Franklin just got announced on the Canelo Crawford undercard. He's taking on oh god, I forgot the guy's name, but an undefeated fighter. So he's already booked for a fight. Like Mike Tyson versus Tillis, that's a good comparison. Franklin already has his return fight to prepare him. So okay. So I mean, Franklin's in a 50-50 type fight. So
but I think that he's also a guy who's closer to his prime, who's shown a certain level of athleticism and mobility for a heavyweight. So yeah, I mean, F.A. Ajagba would be a good fight for him. It all depends on how quickly you want to kind of move him along. You know what I mean? But I think anybody that's in that mix outside of the top 5 is basically fair game for him because he's passing tests with flying colors, bro.
Here's some breaking news. I just want the truth. Khalil Coe, the big stepper, taking on Jesse Hart, co-main event of the Boots fight. It's a hard fight.
Oh, love that. Fight. Love that matchup, man.
That's a good fight. Shout out to both. I don't know who I favor in that fight because, Jesse Hart is a formidable fighter.
Very formidable, just hasn't been the most active in the last couple of years. I mean, I would have to favor Khalil just on activity and youth, but that's a real fight.
And they said Steven Nelson is fighting the guy Reiko Santana who beat Truck Simpson last summer.
Oh, maybe is it not our guy? It's not Vladimir Hernandez?
No, it's not Vladimir Hernandez. It's Reiko Santana who fought on the OTX card. Itauma against Zane Kabaski. That's the fight to make. I just want the truth. I mean, didn't Kabaski, isn't he the low blow guy that we never saw?
He is the low blow guy we never saw again, bro. We never saw that man again.
It was the low blow guy, and then he just low blowed himself off of television.
Oh, yeah.
Did that go 4 rounds?
I don't know, man, but he was doing it a lot. And I remember it was weird because he clearly could have been in the fight, but something snapped.
It's a very Galata-like performance.
Very.
Anything else you want to add to Itauma? Like, I mean, to me, it's just like there's a lot to like, but at the same time, I'm like you. I've fallen in love with fighters, and then like the honeymoon can be a crash and burn. So it's like and I think also the thing is, we've never really seen someone as young as him go flawlessly to a title and just sustain. So you have to set realistic standards where this is more than likely the next great British boxing fighter. But let's tamper our expectations. There's going to be ups and downs, but he's
But I don't
basically
think you need to tamper it based on anything he's doing. I think you need to tamper it based on the fact that Dillian Whyte was 37, hasn't been the most active, and has been chinned pretty good a couple of times, and has a lot of wear and tear on him. That's why you need to tamper your expectations, because as impressive as it is, those things are also true.
Yeah, that's a tough one, man. Okay, so now the next fight we talk about, the Dakota main event. Nick Ball defeats Sam Goodman. What are your thoughts on this one?
Man, Sam Goodman has had a tough break here the last year and change, man, with the 2 cancellations against Inoue for the cuts. Now he's moving up in weight. He's basically fighting the consensus best guy at the weight, who's been on a pretty crazy little run, has a close fight. The judges weren't really paying attention to what he was doing, and loses a wide decision in a very competitive fight. But Nick Ball, it's a couple of close fights where he's either getting decisions or he's getting the draw with Vargas. He does shit that stands out, and it has a way of getting him through these close fights because it's so drastic what he has to do to close range that you just see what he's doing really clearly. And he's very physical. He hits hard. He's really strong. And a lot of guys just can't handle it at this lower weight.
And to be fair, and maybe I scored it wrong, I thought Ball just squeaked this one out. I thought he kind of out-muscled him at the end. But I think that this was one where it was a very, very close fight. This was close. One that came down to what do you like? And I kind of had the feeling that Ball was going to win it because of the physicality. Like you said, the eye-catching shots. I think it's going to be really hard to beat Nick Ball as a finesse fighter because you're just going to, if it goes to the cards, it's everything he does, his head's neck rocking back, forcing his way in, the little man working, or a guy on the outside landing jabs while this guy's coming forward like he's really on a mission. I think there is a little
like Venado, right? Like Venado would be halfway across the ring and like throw a leaping left hook that would somehow land, but he was doing these unorthodox things to close range. And on top of that, Nick's got some footwork where he knows how to put himself and keep himself in position, to land his shots against always taller guys. So he has mastered that to some extent.
I think that there's also a level, and this could be wrong of me to say, he's a little man, and when a little man's pressing the bigger men back, there's a little bit of like, that must be hard. Like this little guy is pushing this guy back, and the optics, I think he gets some of that. I just want the truth. Ball has only been fighting 122 pounders. He's got to fight his Mando, Marco Coelho. Well, that's a great fight because they fight the exact same way, and that's like a fight of the year type fight.
I don't think you can call Ray Vargas that's a real featherweight right there, and much naturally bigger.
Yeah, I mean that's a real guy. I guess he's saying the mandatory title defenses have been against guys that had been 122 pounders, but I'm
Ray
looking.
Ford, you got I don't know. I think he's got quite a little lineup of guys he's been fighting the last few years.
I mean, Ronnie Rios, you could say was a 122, but he came back at 26, and that's a formidable guy. He came on the Slip and Weave show too. And then fighting Sam Goodman, sure, he was a 22 for a while, but that was a credible top tier fighter. So I think Nick Ball is kind of creeping in. Him and Espinoza are creeping into the pound for pound conversation. Like
that's kind of the big fight at featherweight right now. And it also, I think, is intriguing because of how different sizes they are. They're almost a foot difference in height. It's just completely different builds at one of those weird intersection weight classes where it's like little guys and big guys. But who knows when that fight gets made, bro? Because we don't have any information on Top Rank right now. There's a lot of good
But
fights that are sort of in
I
limbo.
love that matchup because it's like you got two guys with two different builds who throw a lot of punches. And
Yeah.
it's like, I think between me and you, we think those are the two best guys in the division.
Yeah, I think Angelo's got an argument for it too, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great division. Ever since he won the belt, said, I just want the truth. Mankey Crazy said Ronnie Rios, TJ Dahoney, and Sam Goodman are all 122 pounders that came 26 to fight him.
I guess that there is some truth to that. I still think that they're good tests though. And I think that the Ray Ford fight is sort of the signature win.
And then that's a perfect segue. What did you think of Ray Ford, Abraham Nova?
I mean, Ray Ford is just like kind of a safe bet right now. He's Mr. Consistent. He's always sharp. And, Nova came out, ready to win, had a strong start. But Ray's got that kind of composure that Shakur has, where he doesn't get outside of himself. He doesn't get ruffled. And he gets into a rhythm, and he's very difficult to beat. And I think he's the top 5 guy at 130 right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's up there, man. I think that one thing I saw was Nova came to win. And the thing with Nova that I don't know if we'll ever see, because I feel like his momentum is messed up now. So I'm not sure how much. When guys start losing a few fights in a row, it's hard to get that confidence back you had as an unbeaten prospect, right? So I'm not sure we're ever going to see Nova at what potentially his potential was. But he's an outstanding athlete, and at times he gets away, I think, from showing his boxing ability, because he's physically capable of doing things most guys can't do. And in this fight, I felt like at times he was trying to do some of that stuff, whereas Ray Ford was, kind of keeping it simple. And that's kind of my knock on Nova, is Nova sometimes has this athletic ability, and he thinks he's going to take over a fight with the athletic ability. But what ends up happening is he's doing a whole lot to do a whole little. And I compare it to my guy, J.R. Smith, where like he'd be dribbling the ball and he'd move back and forth, and he's really just standing in one spot holding the ball. But he's doing all these dribble moves and spin moves, and it looks great. But there's a lot of guys that can just kind of dribble and hand off. And Nova's got to figure out a way to kind of blend that. Now, what do you think?
I think that that's a really good description, and I think that's part of what's going to make Ford so difficult. Is, like I said, he's not going to get outside of himself. Even in those moments where Nova's kind of got him pinned and he's running his hands, he's not landing a whole lot, and Ray's staying in the pocket, and his shots were just much cleaner. And I mean, I'm ready to see him and Shock Foster whenever they're ready to make that happen.
We've seen the worker fighters have a feeling. They put together a category: Arnold Barbosa, Abraham Nova, Omar Trinidad, and Gucci Flores. So kind of guys that maybe hard workers, good gym guys. But, I'm not sure I fully get what you're saying, but we read the comment. To me, Ray Ford is making that leap. He had a couple of fights early in his development where, maybe he could have lost. They were close fights. He doesn't look like that guy anymore. He looks like he looks like a top 10 type fighter, top 5 type fighter. He looks like everything he was advertised to be. He's as confident as he's ever been. He really
and getting better, bro. I mean, he really did kind of come up the hard way. He didn't take easy fights. It always felt like maybe he was even getting a little out ahead of himself at the beginning of his career. But it has kind of paid off, because there isn't a whole lot he hasn't seen, and what is he, 24, 25 years old?
This is his prime, right? This is his prime, and he's got a good pedigree. I'm excited to see the type of matchups he makes. And I think that he's also someone that could display power in some fights that people don't see. I saw a little bit of power in this fight. I think that he's always going to look for paths to victory, but I think he's also a guy that we might see kind of get some sneaky knockouts here and there at the high level.
Sure. I think I think same with Hitchens, where it's like he's got that snapping kind of way that he throws, and I think if somebody's open enough for it, they're going to do damage.
So the different to me, Hitchens is just like a ruler. It's like fighting long rulers, and he just makes you walk into the end of a ruler over and over. And it might not be the hardest thing, but if you walk into a ruler 200 times, you're gonna start thinking about, do I want to keep doing it? To me, the way Ford fights is he's a placement guy. He places his punches so well. It's like you could make little circles on a guy's body and he could just touch. And it felt like in this fight, he was hitting the same place over and over, like he was giving a guy a dead arm.
Yeah.
And that's what I think his strength is that he can place his shots so well.
Yeah.
And do you want to talk any bit about Hrgovic?
I mean, I still kind of feel the same about him. I think he has ability, right? He almost knocked this guy out a couple of different times, couldn't finish him, and then gets hurt himself and showed that he's still kind of vulnerable. So I feel like it's basically a lateral move for him. He's still an interesting guy, for, even somebody like Itauma. But I don't know that I view him the way I did a few years ago. And I don't know that guy, if that's going to come to fruition. I don't know that he's, the second coming of Vitaly Klitschko the way I thought he could have been a couple of years ago.
I don't see him as a true contender anymore. I see him as a formidable guy in the rankings, but he's very vulnerable. He's very vulnerable, and the vulnerabilities are showing more and more with every fight. And the thing that I've noticed when he's gotten to this level, he's having trouble separating. He's
having trouble finishing.
But I mean, he's looking very comfortable going neck and neck with guys who may or may not fight for titles.
I think that's a good point.
So that's basically our assessment. Did you check out Omar Trinidad's fight this weekend?
I did not. You're going to have to take the reins.
Okay, so Omar Trinidad fought to a draw, and it's kind of a shocking one. It was pretty uneventful fight. I typically like these UFC fight pass cards, but it was a fight where he came out and Parra, the guy's fighting, had some level of experience. But the big thing I saw was both guys were waiting. And it's hard for either guy to win if nobody's leading. And there were just round after round where it was a you go, I go fight. So Trinidad would throw, then Parra would throw. I mean, they were staying one punch, two punch. There was no huge separation. Trinidad would start to get momentum. He'd get cracked with a straight right, which, by the way, that's something I noticed in this fight was Trinidad was getting hit with a right hand. And at the end, when the draw happened, it felt pretty accurate because I did not have a sense of who was even winning the fight because there was no true separation in the fight. And for me, Trinidad, he's not a guy with a deep amateur pedigree, but he's someone that's kind of taken that blue collar Danny Roman, LA, worked his way up the hard way in the gyms. He's kind of been a feel good story in boxing where he stayed active. He's fought a lot of tough guys that he probably shouldn't have beat, gets signed with 360. And this has been his first lateral movement in like the last 3 years or 4 years. This is the first time he's kind of hit a thorn.
Yep, sometimes that happens, man. And sometimes, guys just kind of cancel each other out. We saw that with De Los Santos and Shakur a couple of years ago, where it's just like you get a bad matchup and one guy's got an answer for everything the other guy does. And it's just kind of, it looks like a waiting contest. But sometimes you get those matchups, man.
I'd like to also add Mizuki Hiruta, sensational. Her first two fights. Man. Her first two fights in the United States, I wasn't blown away. I had high standards for her. In this fight, she fought, what was her name? Naomi Cardenas Gomez. She just beat Bree Howling, who's an up-and-comer, undefeated. Earned her this opportunity, physical come-forward fighter. Guess what you just saw? You saw Hiruta do what she was advertised to do. Great lateral movement. Pitches a shutout. She has these outfits that are like, I'd assume based off of anime. She's got pink hair. She really feels like someone who's in tune with Japanese pop culture that could transcend into whatever. I don't really know what her outfits kind of like where they like the origin story or the background of him, but it seems like there's a whole group of people that are really interested in
Like
that.
somebody does, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's not like she just made up an outfit. Like, she had a cape on, an elaborate thing. And it really feels like if she can put together some special performances, she's someone that's very marketable, because there's different she dresses up like these characters, or even more so, she seems like a video game character. Like, she has this larger than life persona. And in this fight, fighting a dangerous opponent, albeit her opponent missed weight, which is notable, it really felt like a star-making performance. She outclassed this opponent, pitched a shutout, and I feel like this is her third fight in the United States. And I think that stuff matters. You know, I think her first fight, I wasn't that blown away, but I think she tried to have too good of a performance. Her second fight was all right, but it still wasn't there. There's something special with her. So let's keep monitoring.
What's the fight for her? Like, what, you know what I mean?
Fundora. I'd like to see her in Fundora. I think she's 115. So in theory, Fundora's littler than her.
Yeah. She's so tall that I always think of her. She must be so much bigger on fight night, but yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, to me, that's the fight, right? That's the most interesting fight out there. I mean, what's the fight that the Australian who fought our friend Sharetta Metcalf? What's that girl who fought Chicken on the MVP card?
Shanika Johnson.
Maybe that's a fight.
Sure.
You know, but I think that those are real fights.
Yep.
So that's just, you know, sitting on a YouTube like
maybe at some point she fights who just opened up the Serrano and Taylor card.
Well, you're thinking Tam Thibault.
No, the little fighter.
Oh, Ella Scottney. Yeah, I mean, I think Ella's a different level, but I mean, that's still a fight. But I think Ella's 122 now, but she could probably. I just think Ella's like possibly the best women's boxer. I think Hiruta is a very good boxer, but I think Ella's Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano good. I'm not sure Hiruta's there. Not to disrespect her, but that's it. They said, what's the ceiling for Trinidad? Title contender, maybe wins a title. I'd say his ceiling is like Maurice Hooker. Do you like that, Dakota? Or
I haven't seen him before, to be honest.
Okay, so he hasn't seen him. Opponents fight at 118. Evening, Lukey and Dakota. Great boxing chat every time. Loving the content. Thank you for tuning in from the UK, by the way. We love those people tuning in from the UK. We are a global boxing show. We show no bias. We're citizens of the world. So we're coming to you with raw and uncut opinions for everybody, not just one continent. Isn't that right, Dakota? We're going worldwide, baby. Some people say worldwide, but they don't represent the world. We represent the world. We call it down the middle.
Bro. From Weehawken into the world, son. That's what it is. And Martin, I appreciate you tolerating us trying to remember names for large portions of the show.
So now let's get to this week. We actually have a pretty good 2 nights of fights. I don't know if you've ever caught these MVP prospects cards. Have you watched those before?
I've watched a couple, yeah.
Your thoughts so far?
I think they're great, honestly. I think that they're filling a void that boxing is lacking, and that's why I enjoy those cards. I enjoy the Salida cards and the Pro Box cards, you know, good opportunities for up-and-comers to develop. And anytime we can have that in boxing, I'm all about that.
I want to give a shout out to our guy, Mike Lenardi at MVP too, because I think he's probably helping with that. That's a real boxing guy, grassroots guy. And, you know, I think this project really is a real boxing guy thing. So let's look at this card. Paul Rivera is taking on Daniel Bailey in the main event. He's 12-0. Daniel Bailey 15-2. Solid fight. I mean, Rivera is one of these guys that's been bouncing around, looking to make that leap to the next level. What's your expectation? Do you have any thoughts?
I'm trying to remember if I've seen this guy. You know, of course, I don't think I've ever seen this guy before either, unfortunately, Lukey.
Well, I know I have, okay? So I guess I was throwing it to you hoping that you would He actually turned pro
I've
on
seen
Pro Box.
Yoelvis
So I
Gomez. I'm
saw.
looking, I've seen Yoelvis
Well, no,
Gomez.
we're gonna get to those. So I mean, he turned pro on Pro Box, then he kind of danced around. I know he had a couple of Pro Box fights that I had seen. He's been fighting on these cards for a couple of times. He's a solid technical operator. He's a real, he's a real good guy. And Daniel Bailey's had opportunities to fight as heavy as lightweight that he took. So now he's going down to featherweight, which might be a more like opportune weight class. To me, this is a where are you going in your career for Rivera? Because he's fighting a guy that's been willing to take some fights. Yeah, he's got a loss here and there, but he's coming to win. This is a real fight. Yoelvis Gomez against Edwine Humaine. Humaine fought Ardreal Holmes in his last fight. It was a real fight. It was a tough fight. What are your thoughts on that? Because Yoelvis has now moved down to junior middleweight. He's no longer campaigning at middleweight after losing to Marquise Taylor. Edwine Humaine Jr., of all things, you might not believe this. He actually started boxing like rather recently, and he's had some crazy amount of fights in like just a couple of years. And he actually gave Ardreal Holmes a lot of problems at times because he couldn't keep him off of him. So to me, this is a sneaky fight.
Listen, bro, I really liked Yoelvis early in his career, but I always felt like he was a little bit predictable. And then, Marquise was able to kind of show that and keep him turning and kind of make him keep his hands in his pocket. But I did see his last performance, the stoppage against I think it's Ferreira, and I thought he looked better, bro. Like I thought that there were some improvements made, but it wasn't a guy that I would exactly call a live guy. It felt like another sort of development fight, which I always, when a guy takes a loss, why not dial it back and try to build back up and get a winning streak going and prevent that momentum kill like you talked about. But I don't really quite know what to make of Yoelvis at this point. I gotta see him in with some resistance.
Well, I think what's his identity, right? Because it seems like his best identity was a boxer puncher. His worst was just trying to be a puncher. And I think that this fight will tell us how he sees himself, which might give us a clue to where his career is going.
It kind of felt like he was trying to be a slugger, right? And then it's like he's winding up on everything, kind of. He goes the distance with Cota, who's been stopped a lot, right? Like anytime he's kind of been in with another big name, he gets stopped, and he goes the distance with Yoelvis, and it just felt like he's just too predictable.
Yeah. Our guy, Jahmal Harvey, turning pro on this card, turning pro in a 6-rounder, 2024 Olympian. Super friggin' good, man. Jahmal is one of those real special fighters, top fighter. I know I'm very excited to see that. I don't think that's going to go to the final bell. Another guy I'm looking at is Carlos De Leon. Really, really good fighter. This first night feels like there could be some like upsets possibly. It's more of what I'd call a hardcore fight night. And then we get to night 2. So night 2 is headlined by Yankiel Rivera against Angelino Cordova. Do you know anything about those fighters so I can do show notes?
Man, I love me some Yankiel Rivera, man. I mean, what's not to like with him? Because the skill set is obviously there. The boxing ability is obviously there. And there's just times where you can tell the guy can't help himself and he finds himself in a kind of a slugfest when he doesn't need to be. I think we've probably both done the Luis Neri comparison, right? Like it feels like that's a pretty apt comparison. Has the speed, has the skill set, has the footwork, doesn't always use it, and that makes for kind of more dramatic, interesting fights for the fans. I've really enjoyed the run that he's been on, bro. I don't think I've seen him since the Andy Dominguez fight, but his career, at least for me, is one of the more exciting lower weight champ. Is he a champion? No, he's not a champion yet.
I think he's not a champion, but to me, he's one of the most exciting lower weight fighters. Great boxer. His flaws.
Yeah, and I don't even know if he's one of the best. He's just one of the most exciting.
I think he's one of the better guys, but I think that his flaw makes us question how good he's going to be because he likes to exchange, and we've all seen over the history of boxing, it's not maybe the greatest long-term security plan is to like to, and then he's in there. Guess who? What Angelino Cordova, who fought Julio Cesar Martinez? What's he known for?
Having a no contest, right? Because Martinez has what, 7 of those now?
Actually, do you want to do the research?
I'm going to do the research. How many no contests does Julio Cesar Martinez have on his record? And I mean, the answer is 4. So
that's the answer?
Yeah.
The answer is 4. That is wild. Well, Angelino Cordova, what I was looking to get at with you is why I think this is a banger of a fight. He's 19-0-1 with 12 knockouts. So that is a record that tells me he can punch.
Yeah, but there's many no-win fighters on this record right here.
That being said, but when he fought Martinez, he was punching.
Not a couple, like half of them.
No, but what I'm saying is he's punching, bro. This guy's a puncher. And if Yankiel Rivera gets into a slugfest, this could be a banger of a back and forth, beat 'em up fight.
No, this is going to be a good one. Anytime I can catch a Yankiel Rivera fight, I try to. I was also at his fight, I believe, against Christian Robles. It was on the undercard of Berlanga. And, you know, that's a New Yorker crowd. They go hard for their guys. And he brought a level of excitement. I mean, there might have been as much noise for him as anybody that night.
Okay, let's keep going with this card. Really, really good fight. Yoelvis Gomez, probably the most underrated junior middleweight, taking on a Bess Barreyu. Gomez is the interim WBA junior middleweight champion. Why does that matter? Well, Terrence Crawford, I believe, is the outright WBA junior middleweight champion. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah.
So if Crawford were to not fight in that division, would Gomez just get promoted, one might think? So
he
this
might become an email champion. I know that,
but to me, Gomez is someone where he's starting to really build a record. You know, he beat J-Rock. He beat Johan Gonzalez, who's a tough cookie. And nobody's really paying attention to this guy, but he's a good puncher who I think his flaw is he's not like sensational. Nothing about him jumps off of the page, but he's fighting the #1 ranked guy. And I think that's a pretty good fight.
Yeah, I think that's a hell of a fight, man. You know, I think Tellez is one of the more promising guys at junior middleweight and very much overlooked. And I think that's because he just does everything good, right? There isn't anything that kind of comes out and wows you, but he's good enough to win a pretty wide decision over J-Rock. And so there's so much, the versatility for me is where he's going to kind of stand out. His ability to deal with multiple different styles. There may not be any one moment or one performance where we're like, wow, holy shit, who is this guy? But I do think that he's going to be, his adaptability is going to make him difficult to deal with.
I also think he's one of those guys where he has just enough power to keep you at bay. And veteran
I think he hits pretty hard. I think he hits
pretty
hard.
I think he hits hard, but what I'm saying is he has just enough power, but he's calm, so he doesn't force it. So there's going to be times where like people are looking for the explosive knockout and he might just be like, okay, I want to win just outright. And that, I mean, I think he's going to be someone where he's going to need a dance partner to become a name. Let's go to some of these comments.
He's also got the Sergio Garcia win, which was, you know, very explosive. And Garcia had shown to be a pretty durable guy up to that point.
He's a real guy. Daniel Bailey will be drained at 126, said, man, key crazy. My guy, Sev, I'm going to call you back. He called me like 2 months ago, and I've been so busy. At work listening. What up? What up, Sev? Man, key crazy. Cordova was hitting Martinez flush. I agree, he was. Jesus M says, no more pay-per-view for MMA, no more pay-per-view in the UFC. I think that's a wait and see. They're saying that because of this Paramount deal. But I feel like all combat sports will always circle back to pay-per-view because whenever we hear no more pay-per-view, it always feels like we end up back in pay-per-view island. Tellez punches harder than Sam Eggington, a boss's former opponent. Well, that's a good assessment. We got the most knowledgeable chat. More on this fight card. Let's keep going. Jermaine Ortiz was originally going to fight Steve Claggett. Now he's taking a late replacement opponent. It's nice to see Jermaine back. It's nice to see Jermaine back.
Absolutely, but I actually thought that was a fun little matchup. I was looking forward. That was the Dakota main event.
I thought that was a 50-50 fight, bro.
I would have called that a really good 70-30. Like, I just think that Jermaine is like legitimately a top guy, and I think that Steve is a really great contender. I would have favored Jermaine on that one. That's a bummer that we're not going to get to see that yet.
But it's good that Jermaine's going to stay on the card because he needs to stay active. Other interesting fights that stand out to me: Jasmine Ortega, fresh off her title win, will take on Lynn Sandstrom. Lightweight Stephanie Hahn, who just got with MVP. Looks like big fights on her horizon. If she wins, I wouldn't be surprised if we get a big fight. No Love Dove in action. And Jocelyn Camarillo, who I met in the Las Vegas gym, will be on the card. And I guess I'm overlooking one of the more interesting fights on the card. Lightweight Lucas Body taking on Roger Gutierrez, a guy who holds some credible wins.
Man, what's Gutierrez got left in the tank?
Probably not too much, if we're going to be serious.
I just haven't seen him since. I'm looking at his box record. I don't
Probably
think
the Rene Alvarado type fights.
I think I saw the Garcia rematch. That was the last time I would have seen him. And he's always been an interesting guy, man, because, you know, he's got the couple of big upset wins. He became a titleist. You know, you go 24 rounds with Rene Alvarado, you got my respect. You know what I mean? But it's just tough to know what to make of him. And Body is ascending, I would say. Though I'm surprised he hasn't capitalized on that Silv win a little bit more.
They're keeping him busy. I think the problem is this division is in a standstill. You know, that you got title holders not being all that active. To me, Body,
is it in a standstill, Lukey? I mean, we just got Barbosa and Tio. We just got, we just got Sabril Matias and Franguayo.
Those are 140 fights.
Yeah. Sorry.
You the current champions at lightweight, just for that.
No, that now that I've corrected myself, lightweight is very much at a standstill.
IBF lightweight champion is Raymond Muratalla. WBA champion is Gervonta Davis. WBC champion Shakur Stevenson. WBO is vacant and will be competed between Abdullah Mason and Sam Noakes. So Shakur has a title defense, but really WBA Gervonta is opting for an exhibition over a title defense. And I mean, I guess that's one thing that maybe comes out of this is, does the WBA dare strip him or do something?
Get him the fuck out of here, bro.
You know, I think Body just doesn't. Let me see where Body is in the rankings. You know, Lucas Body's 5 in the IBF, the WBA. Is he higher in anything? So it's really he's going
15
IBF
on box,
or
right?
WBA. So
he's number 15 on box, right?
But I mean, it looks like he's fighting a former title guy, trying to get his ranking higher. They know what they're doing. To me, what makes Body a tough dude is he's really patient and he hits really hard and he's a good counter puncher. So he could be losing rounds, but he's waiting and waiting and waiting.
Yeah, sometimes though I feel like he's gonna lose some Arthur Abraham type decisions where he's just like high guard, not throwing too much, you know.
But he does it like the opposite way, right? So my guy Arthur would go high guard and walk to you and just get outboxed. He's gonna stay on his back foot in the mid range and just get kind of jabbed, and then he's gonna be waiting on a right hand or a left hook.
He's gonna hit us with the Rocky Juarez.
Yeah, you know, he's just gonna be staying in the hesitation island, like
just right there, fainting.
I can definitely see how like a Shakur Stevenson beats Lucas Body. You know, like you kind of have the roadmap, but I also think Body's a live guy with a lot of guys. Like I think he's an interesting fight for a guy like Andy Cruz who takes.
What about Schofield?
It's a real fight.
Do you think that's a real fight? Do you think Body?
I think that's a real fight. What do you think?
I don't really know what to make of them. It's tough to know how to read like a first round knockout. Those are always devastating, but that's a tough thing to gauge the future off of. And when I've seen him,
it tells me that he can punch. So it tells me if you come out and you don't respect what he's got, he can lay you out. Right? That's what it tells me, is that he's a real puncher. He's not just talking. But the thing with him is, what is the problem with punchers? Sometimes they get tired. They need second wins. I mean, I think the problem with Schofield right now is he doesn't have that experience to go to the second half of fights. And
Body's won 2 decisions since the Silv fight. He hasn't gotten a knockout since.
And he also has won the Silv fight where he's losing rounds, and he just waited and waited. And that Silv fight now is kind of looking like a career re-altering moment. You know, like I think that recently Silv announced that he parted ways with MVP. So I mean, that was
just to add to make it crazy, you know, I have been surprised at how hittable Body is too when I've watched him. And I can't imagine, you know, that's going to catch up to him at a certain level.
Yeah, it puts miles on the odometer, right? So it's like if you don't get an oil change, you know, it's going to be wrong. That's our show for this week. So thank you guys for putting up with us. Dakota, what do you got cooking?
Right now, all I got cooking is I'm working on a episode of The Fight Life with Mio Yoshida right now. Hoping that's going to come out by the end of the month, if not the first week of September. So keep your eyes open for that.
And our guy Bipolar Boxing came in right at the buzzer for a question. I don't think Body beats anyone in the top 10, but guys like Schofield and Muratalla would be his best chance. Fair comment. We'll throw it to you guys in the chat if you have any last questions, because it's a shorter show. Next week's going to be an even shorter show because guess what? We have no boxing on major networks again. So, I mean, maybe if in the last minute you guys throw a topic, otherwise me and Dakota might have to do, are we going to do favorites for awards this year for the second half of the show or something? Because we have to come up with a gimmick because we'll recap this MVP card, but like we don't have did you guys see the Australia fights? I didn't see Nikita Zhu or Michael Zarafa, so I got to catch up on that. Let me know in the comments which ones I should watch. I just briefly looked over them, but I didn't see the fights.
Unfortunately, I saw the DAZN card and I saw the Pro Box card.
Yeah, so okay. So that is it, and we will see you next week.